Throughout history, there have always been people willing to deceive others for personal gain. Whether it's for wealth, power, or simply the thrill of pulling one over on their fellow humans, con artists have existed in every society. Their stories often capture our imagination because they show the extraordinary lengths people will go to in order to achieve their devious goals. Today, we're counting down 20 of the most notorious con artists of all time, in no particular order. 20. William Chaloner. William Chaloner was a 17th-century Englishman notorious for his counterfeiting crimes. At a time when tampering with currency could have devastating effects on the economy, counterfeiting was punishable by death. Chaloner didn't stop there, though. He also sold fake cures for illnesses and acted as an agent provocateur, setting people up for his own gain. Chaloner became such a threat that none other than Sir Isaac Newton, yes, the Isaac Newton, conducted a thorough investigation, utilizing spies and informants to bring him down. After a lengthy trial, Chaloner was executed in 1699. His efforts to avoid the noose by pretending to be insane failed, leaving his legacy as one of the boldest criminals in history. 19. Gregor MacGregor. Some con artists are notable for their audacity, but Gregor MacGregor took it to another level. He invented an entire country. In the early 19th century, MacGregor convinced people that he was the ruler of a fictional land called Poyais in Central America. He sold the idea of Poyais as a tropical paradise, a land where settlers could prosper with minimal effort. Sadly, those who believed him and traveled to the so-called paradise found nothing but uninhabitable wilderness. Many died from disease, and MacGregor's scam was eventually uncovered. Yet, he ran similar schemes even after this debacle. 18. Jeanne de Valois-Saint-Remy. Jeanne de Valois-Saint-Remy was an extraordinary con artist whose schemes had a significant impact on French history. Jeanne claimed royal lineage from the French house of Valois, although her life was far from regal. She is best known for her role in the affair of the diamond necklace, a scandal that tarnished the reputation of Queen Marie Antoinette and, according to many historians, contributed to the French Revolution. Jeanne deceived the Cardinal de Rohan into believing that he was helping the Queen purchase an outrageously expensive necklace. Using forged letters and a prostitute impersonating the Queen, Jeanne swindled both the Cardinal and the jeweler who created the necklace. Although Jeanne was eventually caught, the damage to the monarchy's reputation was irreversible. 17. CL Blood. In the 19th century, medicine was still developing, and people were desperate for cures to ailments that had no solution. CL Blood took advantage of this vulnerability by marketing oxygenized air as a miracle cure for everything from respiratory issues to throat problems. His fraudulent medical claims made him rich, but his crimes didn't end there. Blood was also involved in blackmail, tax evasion, and even murder. Despite these misdeeds, Blood managed to avoid serious punishment and died a free man in his 70s. 16. Cassie Chadwick. Cassie Chadwick, a Canadian by birth, made waves in the United States by pulling off one of the most infamous scams of her time. Posing as the illegitimate daughter of the wealthy industrialist Andrew Carnegie, Chadwick convinced several banks to lend her vast sums of money under the belief that she would inherit part of Carnegie's fortune. Banks were too afraid to verify her story, lest they offend Carnegie, and as a result, Chadwick secured millions in loans before the scam unraveled. When it did, the fallout was massive, and Chadwick was sent to prison for her crimes. 15. William McCloundy. William McCloundy, also known as I.O.U. O'Brien, was one of the many con artists who sold the Brooklyn Bridge. The scam worked by convincing gullible tourists that they could own the iconic structure, often leading to unfortunate attempts to set up toll booths on the bridge itself. McCloundy was eventually caught and sentenced to prison for his audacious fraud. 14. William Canada Bill Jones. A card shark operating on riverboats along the Mississippi River in the 19th century, Canada Bill Jones was a master of the three-card Monte scam. His unique blend of charm and deception allowed him to dupe countless passengers, although his generosity toward others made him an enigmatic figure. Jones was known to hand out money to charity, but his luck eventually ran out when he died in poverty at the age of 40. 13. Victor Lustig. One of the most prolific con artists of the early 20th century, Victor Lustig is best remembered for selling the Eiffel Tower, not once, but twice. Posing as a government official, Lustig convinced scrap metal dealers to buy the Eiffel Tower, a feat that required immense planning and audacity. He also conned Al Capone out of $5,000, which only added to his legendary status in the world of cons. 12. George C. Parker. George C. Parker was another con artist who famously sold New York City landmarks, including the Brooklyn Bridge, Madison Square Garden, and the Statue of Liberty. His sales pitch was so convincing that many of his victims attempted to take control of the purchases. Parker was eventually caught and sentenced to life in prison, but his legacy as one of the greatest swindlers of all time lives on. 11. Charles Ponzi. Charles Ponzi's name is synonymous with one of the most well-known forms of financial fraud, the Ponzi scheme. Ponzi promised investors exorbitant returns by claiming he could take advantage of international postal reply coupons. In reality, he was using money from new investors to pay off earlier investors, creating a pyramid of deception. Ponzi's scheme eventually collapsed, but not before he had swindled millions of dollars from trusting individuals. 10. William Thompson. William Thompson is often credited as the original confidence man, from which the term con man is derived. Thompson's simple yet effective scam involved convincing wealthy individuals to lend him something valuable, such as a watch, under the guise that they could trust him. Once he had their item, he disappeared. His mastery of gaining people's trust earned him a place in history as a trailblazer in the world of cons. 9. Ferdinand Waldo de Mara. Nicknamed the Great Imposter, Ferdinand Waldo de Mara spent much of his life pretending to be someone he wasn't. He impersonated a variety of professionals, including doctors, lawyers, and even monks. De Mara wasn't motivated by wealth as much as he was by the thrill of reputation and recognition. Remarkably, his photographic memory and quick learning allowed him to convincingly perform many of the jobs he pretended to have. Despite multiple arrests, de Mara continued his life of deception for years. 8. David Hampton. In the 1980s, David Hampton tricked numerous wealthy New Yorkers into believing he was the son of famous actor Sidney Poitier. His scheme involved using this false identity to receive money, shelter, and other forms of support. His exploits became so infamous that they inspired the play 6 Degrees of Separation. Even after his scam was exposed, Hampton continued conning people under different aliases. 7. Jerry Tarbot. Jerry Tarbot claimed to be a World War I veteran suffering from amnesia. He garnered significant public sympathy, and at one point, a bill was even introduced in Congress to compensate him for his suffering. However, it was eventually discovered that Tarbot was actually a draft dodger named Alexander Dubois Jr., who had a history of fraud and deceit. 6. Natwarlal. Natwarlal was India's most famous con artist, known for forging signatures and selling famous landmarks, including the Taj Mahal and the Parliament House of India. What makes Natwarlal truly legendary is his ability to escape custody. He managed to escape 9 times, including once as an 84-year-old man in a wheelchair. His exploits have made him a folk hero in parts of India, where he remains an iconic figure in the world of cons. 5. Reed Slatkin. Reed Slatkin was a former Scientologist and financial advisor who orchestrated one of the largest Ponzi schemes in U.S. history. Over the course of 15 years, Slatkin swindled over $593 million from investors, including celebrities and members of the Church of Scientology. His fraud eventually caught up with him when the SEC launched an investigation, resulting in Slatkin's imprisonment. 4. Frank Abagnale. The subject of the film Catch Me If You Can, Frank Abagnale's life as a con artist is almost too unbelievable to be true. He impersonated an airline pilot, a lawyer, and a doctor, among other professions, all while successfully forging millions of dollars worth of checks. After his eventual capture, Abagnale struck a deal to work with the US government to help detect and prevent fraud. He has since become a respected security consultant, proving that even the most notorious con artists can sometimes change their ways. 3. Ali Dia. Ali Dia is the footballer who tricked Southampton Football Club into signing him by pretending to be the cousin of the legendary player George Weah. Dia's lie led to him making a brief appearance in a Premier League match, during which his lack of skill became painfully obvious. He was swiftly released from the team, but his bizarre story has earned him a place in the history of football's strangest moments. 2. Anna Sorokin. Anna Delvey. In recent years, Anna Sorokin, also known as Anna Delvey, became infamous for posing as a wealthy New York socialite to defraud hotels, banks, and her friends. Sorokin convinced people she was a German heiress with a massive fortune, and many bought into the lie, providing her with extravagant loans, lavish stays, and access to high society events. Eventually, her con was exposed, and she was sentenced to prison for multiple counts of theft and fraud. 1. Elizabeth Holmes. Elizabeth Holmes founded the biotechnology company Theranos, claiming that its technology could revolutionize blood testing by using just a few drops of blood to perform hundreds of tests. Holmes convinced major investors and business leaders to back her venture, which at one point was valued at over $9 billion. However, investigative journalism revealed that the technology didn't work as promised, and Holmes was charged with fraud. Her downfall is one of the most high-profile cases of corporate deception in recent memory. If you enjoyed this journey through history's most notorious con artists, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more intriguing content. Whether it's exploring true crime, financial scandals, or the most audacious scams of our time, we've got plenty of stories to keep you fascinated. Let us know in the comments which con artist surprised you the most, and as always, thanks for watching.